Welcome back to part 2 of manipulations of the mind, how darkness works through you. And I want to jump straight in to the last question that we discussed in part 1. There are some aspects that are still open here and that I would like to address in short form here so that we can look and discuss more questions that came in the meantime. The last question we discussed was whether there's a difference between mind manipulations, obviously meant are things that come in from the outside, be it individuals, organizations, or simply dark forces. Okay, these techniques, these manipulation techniques that I have been talking about at length in many of my workshops in part 1, as well as primarily the narcissist series that you can find on my YouTube channel. These different manipulation tactics that operate on the level of, or that can operate on the level of the mind, that can operate on the level of emotions, that can operate on the level of the etheric, and that can also operate on the level of the astral, which we will look at here in a few moments. But before we go there, I just wanted to repeat what I concluded last time, namely that at the end of the day, it is not important where something originated. We do want to know, that we are manipulated, but at the end of the day, this is very simple as humans. What it actually is that we manifest, that we execute, that we say, do, or think, all right, that is still in our hand. Okay, so is there a difference between manipulations from the outside or from the inside? Because that's really what this question is addressing here. The answer is no. But it's obviously a bit more complex. If we do something, like say out of automatism or out of deception, like somebody's lying to us, or even self-deception, it always comes down to one thing, and that is that somehow in us is some payoff. There is something in us that buys into it. Okay, so whether it is that somebody is heavily projecting onto you, whether it's dark forces trying to possess your mind, or the government, or the industrial military complex, whatever it is that you see as the sort of the forces behind things coming in from the outside. Maybe you just see it as a collective weather conditions, as I do, constant changing energies that we're exposed to. Yeah, it's a bit more neutral this way, but um, regardless of what the source is, okay, there is a part in you that can choose whether or not you are actually doing this, whether you're actually saying this, whether you're actually reacting this way or responding in a certain way, if you believe it or not, even if it is a demonic possession. Okay, and that part is called the I. Yeah, your spiritual identity, your conscious self-awareness, your conscious soul self-awareness. And because nobody taught you this when you were younger, you're not aware of this. Okay? You think that you were a victim of your ego or somebody else's ego or dark forces, and that there's nothing you can do about this. And this is why we're having this discussion. All right? This is not true. You do have a lot of power, okay, to stop that, to not say something or not do something or not think something, for that matter, that does not match up with who you truly are, with the virtues and the values that you want to represent in this world. Okay, so how can we do this? Yeah. So to further entertain the question of whether it's worse to be manipulated by a narcissist or by general public relations or social media or whatever is a waste of time, because there is this final gateway, if you will, this final point in you that can choose whether or not you're going to react to this, whether or not you're going to entertain this, whether or not you want to cultivate this, whether or not this is authentic for you, whether or not this is your truth. And if you don't feel that you can do that, which is why we must have this discussion nowadays, in my view, this is the most important topic of all topics that we could ever talk about when it comes to building a bridge between the spiritual and the physical world. How can we, well, connect? First, we would have to connect with this part in us. But more importantly, because most of you here already have connected, you've already identified yourself. Yeah, you've already identified that there is a spirit being in you, yeah, that is acting out here in the 3D material realm. How can we strengthen that part in us? That part that can choose, that can make a conscious choice. All right, so this is the main subject, the main theme here for this workshop. How can we master that? And the next question that comes up when we want to like figure this out, when we want to change this, when we want to heal this, the fact that we're not really in control of what we're doing. You know what I mean, right? Like, when you say yes, but you actually mean no. When you want to tell the truth, but you actually sort of twisting it a little bit, making it, sugarcoating it, or when you project yourself in a way that perhaps people like you better, or when you, act out in road rage, or when you get caught in your victimhood, or when you throw a pity party, or when you blame, everything bad that happened to you to, whatever, your parents or your children or your ex or, the system or whatever. These are all very unspiritual, if you will, unconscious manifestations. All right. This is a manifestation. When you do this, even though your your spiritual understanding, yeah, your self-awareness already informed you, okay, that nothing and no one can tell you what to think or what to feel or what to say, for that matter. I mean, unless you're 5 years old, or you know you still live with your parents or whatever other dependencies, okay, then you have binds. And when you have binds, yes, then you are certainly not in charge. Then you have given up some of that power to other people or institutions, or sometimes our jobs can make us do things that we don't really want to do, or our relationships and so forth. Then the cause for that is not some mystical dark force. The cause for that is a bind that you allowed. Okay. And so that too then has to become subject to your investigation. Do I want this bind? Do I want this dependency? Do I want this? Now we can go deeper into what it actually is in you that, say, you know, can inform you when these manipulations are taking place, that you can become more aware of them. But you have to be willing to be honest with yourself here, because all these things that I've listed here as these compulsions or these temptations, okay, to act out in ways that you don't really subscribe to, that are not really authentic to you, okay, they all, with very few exceptions, actually come with the payoff. There's something in it your ego gets out of that. Can you guys relate to what I'm talking about? Yeah. Do you guys have examples where you find yourself in situations where you say things or do things or even think things that you actually not subscribing to? Ooh, that you maybe regret or that you perhaps beat yourself up over in the aftermath? Yeah, who can give me examples?
Um, when you're speaking about this, Yona, um, I just get this feeling that uh, it's exactly what you said, of course, but it's like a conditioning, and it's when we still have a toe dipped into that conditioning that we can kind of, I get this feeling you just kind of slide into it, like you're not fully out of the conditioning yet, and it can kind of just like etherically start to suck at you, and there would take a certain amount of strength at that moment to change the response. It could be, I've noticed this week again, the taking the breath, how vital it is.
Mm-hmm.
A matter of recognizing that being in that conditioning is making a bit of a schism in oneself before we can stand up for it. I mean, it could be just as simple. I mean, for me, maybe it's as simple as maybe getting caught up in a funny discussion in the shop, with the shopkeepers, and then forgetting to buy the onion that I went in there to get. That kind of becomes a distraction from what I originally had set out to do on just like a really little level, that is. But then I've noticed it this past week. Um, that's where I went through the dropping the ball on a thing. I was looking at a job opportunity, and the description fit exactly what I did for years in the fashion industry. But then I was looking at this very, 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 very well-known designer and looking at the designs and the materials they were using and kind of the culture of it and going, yes, should I push for it? No, and really going back and forth and seeing what part of me was getting sucked into wanting to have
Mm-hmm.
this opportunity, and what part of me was like putting the brakes on and going, no, like almost causing pain.
Yeah, so you're making a lot of valid points here, Janet. Um, Slightly evading the question, but other points that that you made in regard to, like, like it being hard sometimes, it's still keyword conditioning, still sort of being under the effect of these old patterns in you. Okay, so if you will, you could call these old conditionings or patterns of reacting to something, you could call them binds. Okay, those are binds, and yes, this is absolutely true. We all are under the effect of them. Okay, so at all times. As a matter of fact, this is part of the self realization that we're not free. Okay, this is the first and most important insight that we need to have, that we need to start this conversation with. Okay, we need to realize that our thinking and our expressing, our showing up, our manifesting here is not free. Okay, so that's why I'm making this such a vital exercise, or such a vital thing to talk about in this day and age in particular, because we have to realize that. We have to realize that we're not as free as we're thinking we are. Okay, so before we have that realization, we can't even start addressing that. Yeah, so I want to say yes and no to what you implied here, because yes, we have to realize that we're not free, but no, it doesn't mean that we are a victim of it or that we're powerless. It means that we need to investigate our binds. We need to investigate these patterns. We need to look at what's still in it for us. Yeah, why does our ego still allow that to happen? What does it get out of it? Okay, on one hand, and on the other hand, how can I strengthen that part in me? Yeah, that intention or that resolve that I have. Okay, without getting, basically sucked into my own inner schisms, my own inner conflicts. So inner conflicts are always polarizations, guys. Okay, so everything about us, you guys are aware of this, is about frequency and so forth. But we don't even have to go that technical. You can just imagine it within yourself that you have this sort of field, okay, that just like a magnet, has a positive and a negative pole, okay, and there's gradients and there's rooms, yeah, there's fields within fields in you, okay, and they can gravitate to it one side or to it the other side. Now, positive, negative, not being in the sense of good and bad, but in the sense of like, yes, being in control, and no, not being in control. And when you begin to see your own actions, your own thoughts, and your own expressions this way, then it becomes a little easier for you to stay neutral. Yeah, so because without the disciplines of truth that we really want to internalize on our way here to learning how to freely think, how to freely emote, how to freely make our own choices, we do need to adopt, things such as neutrality, no, non-attacking attitude, non-attachment, and this whole journey of cultivating truth within us always needs to start out with accepting that our own ego mind has limitations, that there are limitations, yeah, and that we're uh, theoretically capable of being free, but practically not very far progressed in that. Okay, this is why we're talking about these kind of disciplines of truth here, to cultivate this, to practice this, to execute this every day, so that it becomes our nature. Yeah, this is what you guys are all familiar with. The picture of the feral dark black wolf and the gentle pathfinder white wolf in you. You guys all know that picture, right? That image. Okay. And what comes to expression is what you feed. That's an old Native American saying. So, how you finally show up in life, okay, depends on which part of you, which polarization in you, which pole in you, you're feeding more, you're investing more in. And this is where the ego payoff comes in, because the ego payoff is linked to our investment. If you believe it or not, no matter how aware you are of the causation of your binds, okay, where this all comes from, like be it your inner child stuff, your parents, your siblings, your exes, your children, your jobs, your, the social media, public relations, whatnot, okay, there still is a reason why you invest in, for example, blaming or victimhood or fear or anger or doubt. Okay, so there's something in, or things like people pleasing, or the whole sort of range here of activities, sentiments, and notions that are not in truth. Okay, there's got to be something in it for your ego. Your ego is the baby version of your higher developed I. Yeah, your identity, your spiritual identity. So it's basically like, if you take this image of the light and the dark wolf in you, whether you feed the 5-year or 3-year old in you, or whether you feed the grown up in you. I know this sounds a little simplified, but at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. To respond to what you just said, Janet, because everything else that I just said was more general in nature. To recognize that the industry that you used to work in has changed, is kind of like a non-brainer. Okay. And whether or not you want to be part of that, now that you're much more mature and more wise and more refined in your own identity, engaging in what you thought was all cool and a bag of chips, 30 or 40 years ago, might just not be authentic anymore. So there doesn't have to be a conflict with that. There just has to be a realization, oh, well, I guess, that's not for me anymore. Yeah. So what I'm saying is that this isn't necessarily conditioning. This is just you realizing that that is not who you are today. And if you have a conflict with that, then you need to ask yourself, why do I want this? Yeah, why do I want it even though I don't want it?
Yeah, you. What's good about Yes, I. The conflict came from the feeling of what the industry is, which always was, and I have to say that uh, a lot of ways it still was even 30 years ago. So there's a lot that hasn't changed.
No,
So
but you didn't have the awareness at the
no.
time, the
Well,
experience probably.
I think less consciously. I mean, I knew I stepped out of the industry, and fortunately, I was in the positions I was in were all very quite creative. I mean, some of it was technical, but I still. This too was a position where they're looking for somebody to do concept and illustrations and stuff.
Hmm. Hmm.
So in my, part of the conflict was, well, that's me. I can walk into that company and be me and not, uh, yeah. I was like, oh yeah, I love doing that job. I love doing it for every single one of the companies, regardless the egos flying around in these companies. I loved doing that job for these companies, period. But it was really a big barrier this time. I was like, I don't,
But
yeah.
you also experienced enough already to listen to that,
It's
because when
such a good pay.
yeah, but look, this is then where it hits your authenticity barrier. Okay, so Janet, I've known you for a very long time, and you have dedicated, you have aligned yourself to truth, sorry, and your true self. Okay, this isn't just a child's game. When you align yourself to truth, everything in you changes. Everything changes. Yeah, all the way down to the makeup of your cells, and you won't be able to do things that are not true to you anymore. Okay, but that said, and oftentimes we experience that as a crisis or as something negative. Um, we have to like face that. We have to realize that there are certain things we just simply can't do anymore. If we did them, okay, we would contradict or we would violate the innermost alignment that we have, which, if you think about it, is the very definition of your spiritual identity. So at some point, we need to realize that, and now I don't know if I said this in the previous recording or now, we have to realize that what comes to expression is what we prioritize. It's as simple as that. So if we have regrets about things, or if we wish we had done other things or whatever, okay, then, well, we can either change it right now and stop sort of wallowing about what we didn't do in the past, yeah, and start doing it now now that we can see it, now that we can feel it, or, we just admit to ourselves that I didn't do it because I didn't really make it a priority. My priorities have changed. My needs have changed. I have changed. Today, I want this more than I used to. Or today, I don't want this anymore as much as I used to. This is a simple realization. There's no need to be mm, sort of, regretful about this. Yeah. So if we didn't do the career that we wanted to do for whatever reason, because our parents told us we should do something different, or because we had children, or because, blah, 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 then that's because we prioritized that. And now that we are in a higher state of consciousness, more self-aware, more aware of who we truly are. Okay, we are in a situation where we realize, oh, well, we can't do these things anymore. We have to find different things. And
That's
sometimes, yes,
that's a good point. I
yeah,
don't
it's
have
a,
regret after from leaving it. I know very clearly from leaving that that was the right thing then. However, to delineate right now that conflict, because it got so hazy for a few days for me, I was like, whoa, what's
it's
going
just
on?
yeah. I mean, in this case, I can literally just say it this way. It's just your ego. It's the past you. That is sort of coming back up and is mesmerized by the money or the status or the rah rah of it. But when you send this to you through your inner truth detector, yeah, which we also call authenticity, okay, you can clearly see that is not who you are
It
anymore.
just didn't allow me. It was like I couldn't physically take to what I would, writing the cover letter and making,
No, it's
filling
true.
in the portfolio.
Yeah, no,
I
I
thought
get
it
it.
was like weird.
It really is that way. You can't make yourself do it anymore. Now, this is a little bit of a safety bolt here that our true self has, because when you actually work those disciplines of truth, okay, and this metamorphosis takes place in you, okay, there are things that you're physically not able to do anymore, or that you're not able to say anymore, like things, for example, like sugarcoating things, or twisting the truth a little bit. Um, the stuff that we all do. Okay, this is extremely difficult for me nowadays. Okay, I immediately get this like almost like physical sensation that this isn't the entire truth. Okay, this doesn't mean that I have to like constantly correct myself, but it means that I because I have aligned myself to truth, there are certain things that I just simply can't, not even chime in with anymore. This all this opinionated talk about politics, or about how bad these people are and how good these people are. This isn't possible anymore, because I deep inside myself feel that that is not who I am. I will not subscribe to any of these polarizations, because if I allow that, then I'm polarizing myself within. Okay, so neutrality is sort of the main or basic tool. Neutrality, not as in like emotionless, but as in like not allowing yourself to go for what I often call sympathy or antipathy, to either of your polarizations, but to stick with what is. Yeah, it's almost like, I mean, I often call it common sense, but the word common sense obviously means, well, it can mean different things to each of us. There is something very simple and very absolute about truth. Okay, and that is what we need to cultivate. There's sort of no nonsense. Well, this is what it is. Okay, yes, I can entertain thoughts of, oh, what it could have been, or, oh, why didn't it? turn out differently. And I can also just scrap that because that's a complete waste of energy, because what is the only truth. And when you hear me talk this way, it sounds a little harsh. It feels at first that truth is harsh. But the reality of that is that it becomes very simple. There's nothing harsh about that. You just filter out all the binds, all the attachments, all the investments that your ego has, all the payoffs. You just filter that out and say, no, no, if I really just look at what is, okay, what I'm seeing is this, or what I'm feeling is this, or, what displays itself to me is. And yes, we still all have different perspectives and therefore also different perceptions. But the point is not that you see truth from a different camera perspective than I do. The point is that if we both align ourselves to truth, we will both see truth.
Yeah, I mean, what the process, it was very simple. At one point, I was like, okay, which is what I usually do these days, is like, okay, what do I need to do now? What do I need to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And then the answer comes, just like the resistance comes to the going the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
It get pulled into the right direction, and then some of the answers also come, and it says, well, Janet, you don't really know how to use Adobe Illustrator, and you don't have your portfolio, I don't, it's been destroyed, my portfolio, I don't have really something to show. So those two things help mentally stabilize that resistance that was happening
Mm-hmm.
as
It's like a
well.
grounding. You're grounded
Yeah,
in what is and in what can be done right now. Okay,
yeah,
not what could have been and what would have been nice if, and what you would have liked better, but what is. Okay, and that is, basically, on one hand, the resistance in wanting to accept truth. Okay, because it filters out all the embellishments and all the layers of self-deception. And on the other hand, it also does something else. And this is something that you mentioned in your initial commentary, namely that it's sometimes hard for you to focus on things, okay? That you sometimes feel like you are not able to hold your focus. And this is something that you all need to pay attention to, guys. Yeah? So when you are setting out to do something and you get distracted into doing something else, okay, then yeah, you can sort of wipe that away and say, oh yeah, I got distracted. Okay, but the truth is that when you do things because you get distracted, and this is something that is rampant right now, yeah, another reason why this is the most important topic of all topics right now, namely, yeah, like what is actually going on with our focus, with our ability to concentrate, with our ability to follow through on just a simple thought. Yeah, we need to investigate that, because if that becomes a condition where we're not able to follow through or think things all the way through, okay, we're in trouble, guys. We're more trouble than we realize,
Yeah,
because we
Jona.
we live in a world that is so fast paced, yeah, where attention deficit is now become the new norm. Okay, where people cannot focus on one thing for more than 6 seconds, guys. This is dangerous. Okay, because how can you have a fully conscious thought process if you cannot hold your focus more than 6 seconds? This is the one and only technique that you ever need to learn to master your own thinking, and to even just create a foundation of free thinking. Yeah, just a foundation. And that is, you need to be able to follow your own thinking process.
Yeah,
And
hey,
if you,
Jona.
sorry, let me just finish that. And if you can't follow your own thinking process, you have no clue where your thoughts originate and what you get distracted by and what makes you do, say, or think things. And we need to really let this sink in. It's useless to talk about, oh, I just did this because of that, and because of my parents, and because of this, and because of what somebody else said, or what happened to me, or what. All just distractions of the mind. Meditation, mindfulness are all exercises that are supposed to form a foundation for you to become able to investigate and follow your own thinking process. Where did this thought originate? And what were the steps? What did it do to my emotions? What did it do to, my scope, my perspective? What did it do to my perception? What did it make me do? You need to know this. That is the main objective of self-healing. That is what self-healing is. And that is how we learn to strengthen the part in us that we call will. Okay, the will, the true and the free will that allows us to make conscious choices. First, we got to observe in us how this process works. And that's a very individual process because it works slightly differently with each and every one of us. And a lot of times we have to let go of wanting to find answers. Because guess what? Wanting to find answers is a distraction in and of itself. Because for as long as you don't even understand the mechanism of your own thinking, forget about any of the results of your thinking.
Well, doesn't it happen? This is what I noticed this week. Well, I've been noticing it because we're tracking our thoughts. Uh, if you get in a moment, and I've noticed myself get in a moment, and everything, of course, like you're talking about, is going so fast. Everything else seems to be normal. But then looking for an answer, suddenly I notice, I'm thinking about somebody else or how somebody else would do it. And I'm like, right there, it opens our minds to somebody else's thinking. We're
Yeah, but this
looking
is
at
not a
somebody else,
conspiracy.
but they're
That's
thinking.
that's not a
No, but,
conspiracy. It's a lack of will. Because you could easily ask
oh,
yourself,
I
why am I
well,
thinking about how this person is doing that? That's not helping me
well,
much.
that's the whole thing. I'm not
Uh,
blaming anybody. I just notice my brain
yeah,
starts going there. I'm like, whatever, whether it's coming from them or from me, I just know it's not where my brain's supposed to be. And then there's that space to be able to breathe and go, well, I'm here right now. And is there
very good.
something that needs my attention? Yeah.
Yes, so very good. That this is exactly how it goes, and it's not just you, Janet. It's everybody. Okay, and that's what we need to do. And you stop that. And you stop the automatisms of thinking, and we need to actually investigate. Wait, wait, wait. What was that? What did I think right now? Why am I thinking about the
Well, that's
neighbor?
good because
Why
I
am I
did
thinking?
think, I was like, does this happen to anybody else? Does anybody else like
Yes,
put
it
their
does.
head in somebody else's head to see how they're going to think? I was like, whoa, whoa,
But
whoa.
not everybody
Oh,
is aware of it. Okay, it happens to 100%
see.
of people, but it's a very small percentage that is actually aware of it. And that is why I keep pointing this out for you guys, that is what you need to address. Nothing else. Nothing else. Forget about origins, forget about causation, forget about answers. Investigate your own thinking process because only so can you detect manipulations of the mind. And
Yeah,
once you detect them, yes, then you can start addressing them. So now go ahead, Sheila.
yeah. Well, and that's exactly my question. And so being here is why I was curious about manipulation of the mind, because of course my first thought is outside things, but I also am, due to this, trying to observe things for myself and wanting, and then realizing I'm distracted by looking for answers. um, I recognize that a lot of manipulation is from within me about just what we're talking about, and then I am, I guess the way this is sounding to me is it's kind of my own mind manipulation, keeping me from, um, kind of doing the simple part of what's what seems like what you're describing, because it's like I intuitively get that, but then I find myself going a week and I haven't done any of the
Mm-hmm.
practices that are very simple
Yeah.
things to do. I did it. I had examples this week over and over again, yesterday being one of them. I woke up, had a great reading. I had myself grounded, getting ready to walk out the door. I'm going to kind of use this mantra for the day. I said it twice. And by the time I got to work, I got in work mode and my day was over.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, I went, where was I? And, and so I find that being kind of a constant thing. And it wasn't until the end of the day that I realized that, oh, that beautiful mantra that I was going to try to keep myself in truth. Not to say that everything I did all day wasn't true or a part of my life, obviously, but, I just recognized that I wasn't in the space that I had set out as my intention.
Authenticity. Yeah, you
Yes.
weren't fully authentic. You said it. You were in work mode, and work mode is
Yep.
some kind of robotic or automatic, like kind of
Yep.
like, what we call the false self, or like a coat that, like
Yeah.
a costume that you
Right.
put on, and a personality, a persona
Mm-hmm.
that you put on. This is the same for everybody, Sheila. But the fact that you're aware that you didn't follow through, okay, this is already a wonderful step. Okay, now pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you could just narrow it down. You said from the moment you walked out of the door till the time you arrived at work. What happened there? Now make that the focus of your attention. There's something that happens there in that, what you call switch, that makes you end up showing up differently than you want to. Okay? That makes you forget everything that you are. Okay? And that makes you susceptible to all kinds of things. Now, granted, guys, don't be nitpickers here, okay? We are, when we step out into the world, obviously exposed to all kinds of other things. Things happen, right? Things are being said, things are being done, we witness things and so forth, and we have reactions to that. But that's exactly what we need to investigate. Yeah, do we actually match up with the reactions that we have, with the responses what we put out into the world? Because I tell you what, and this is why we really, really need to work this. All of you, with no exception, have been working really hard on trying to manifest something, trying to, bring about healing, trying to bring about, more love, more truth, more freedom into your life. And somehow you can't explain to you why you can't. I'm telling you, this is why. Because somewhere along the line, you lose the focus. You're no longer there. Something else takes over. Whether that is a demonic force that is making you do it, or social media, or your colleagues, or whatever, is irrelevant. The only thing that matters is that you become aware that there are forces out there. Let's just call them forces. Let's just call them energies. Okay? Yeah, most of it is simple stuff. And your own attachments, your own binds. That makes you lose that. And that is the only true answer to your questions. Why can't I manifest this? Because you are not you. That's why. And this is the only question that is really worth your attention. How does that occur? What is the mechanism in me? What are these things that make me do things that I don't want to do, or that make it so hard for me to actually follow through with the things that I want to do? What is that? Again, it's very individual. I'm going to show you what it is. Okay? Those of you working with me in the Energy Training Club have already gotten a little bit of that through the energy sessions that we've done. Okay? You're composed of these 4 different fields, if you will, sort of like a Russian doll, like, beings within beings, if you will. Okay, so we have the physical being, that is the sort of the outer, the material manifestation. Not just your body, also of everything that you do, that you say, how you show up. Okay, and sort of what you express into the outside world. Okay, then you have the layer, the dimension of you that is linked to your emotions, to your to like your desires, okay, your drives, your passions. Okay, that is what we call the astral body. Okay, that has a connection to your soul. Okay, there's layers there as well. Okay, there's always kind of like higher and lower, if you will. Okay, but that is connected with your soul. It's sort of the essence of you. Okay, that tries to like sort of get something done here in the material. Okay, and then you have the mental part of yourself, which is what most of you identify with. You still believe that all the thoughts that you're thinking are your own, even though we talked about this a million times. They're not. Okay, if you're lucky, 20% of your thoughts are actually the ones that you're actively thinking. Okay, most people is actually way less. Yeah, so when I say 80% of your thoughts are on your own, I'm actually being generous. Now, this is where the conditioning and the coping and all the stuff that you all complain about, what the neighbors think and how things are supposed to be and what is expected of you and da da da. That's what that plays in, and that is linked to your etheric body, to your life force, but also and mostly to the mental field that you are surrounding yourselves with, the visualizations of yourself, the projections. Okay. And then, as the highest layer and most powerful one, okay, we have our self. Now, you remember, the ego is the baby version of the self. So if there is no conscious I in the person, then the ego is tied to the physical. It's 100% bound to the physical. Okay? It will never really surpass, the physical, the material needs, never really surpass, the drives and desires. Okay? But as soon as a person develops a conscious self, yeah, develops a desire to connect with their true self, yeah, and work with things like their higher self and just becoming aware of, the fact that they're actually a spirit being with an outer shell, with the physical, incarnation that is, just like maybe 80 years or so. Okay, but smaller than the totality of your own being, which is spiritual in nature. Okay, so as soon as you realize that you are a soul that is having a physical experience, a soul with the body, okay, your I forms. And what you haven't been taught is that this is way more powerful than all the others. Okay, this is way more powerful, but it has to go through the others in order to manifest. So this is how this goes. Okay, in real life, normal real life, okay, you have an insight, you form an intention, yeah, and the moment that you can visualize this, yeah, where you sort of form a vision of that, I want to become a great fashion designer, or I want to be, this healer, or I want to, do nature walks all day or whatever. Yeah, these are all visualizations. Okay, this works through your etheric field. And that now has to go through your astral field. It has to match up with your astral. It has to match up with your true heart's desire, if you will. If it doesn't match up with your astral, okay, then we're going to look at this here. It can't manifest. Don't take body here as just your body. Just take it more like as material. Yeah. So any kind of intention that you have, any kind of, sort of thing that you want to do, okay, has to, first forms in the etheric, then has to go through your astral being, and then finally can manifest in the physical. If there are blocks, in an ideal world, okay, a conscious soul self that you are, okay, uh, recognizes this process, okay, and begins to work on the mental constructs. This is what I'm trying to make you guys aware of. I'm trying to motivate you to work this connection more, okay, because your I is actually a higher hierarchy and can master your mental field and your etheric field. It can master your thinking. You're capable of doing that. You're also capable, it's downward compatible, you're also capable of mastering your feeling and mastering your acting. Okay? But first, you have to become able to master your thought process. Why? Because that is where the manifestation process starts. It starts in the etheric field, yeah, that basically shapes reality, but it has to go through the astral. It has to match up. If it doesn't match up, which is so often the case for you guys, you know, um, it would be this version here. You want to be rich. You want to be famous. You want to like not having to deal with all these like material issues that you're dealing with, or with, be it monetary or physical, bodily issues that you're dealing with. Okay, so you just want to have a lot of money, so you don't have to deal with the restrictions that you have. Okay, and that visualization. Okay, you can. It's the secret. That's the level of the secret. You want it, you want it, you want it, and you write your affirmations and you visualize it and you do your vision board and you do. All right, but in reality, that thought, okay, or that projection, that or visualization, which at this point is just a projection, doesn't pass your astral, because deep down, okay, you don't believe that money is going to make you happy. Deep down, okay, you don't actually feel that it's money that is doing that. Partially because you already so far progressed spiritually that you actually understand that. But you still see money as something dirty, maybe, or something that, all rich people are criminals or something like that. So you've got unconscious beliefs that are working against it, and you have a deep sort of maybe karmic or whatever, traumatic, you grew up in poverty, and you never ever ever want to experience this sort of lack or scarcity feeling. Okay, that idea or that insight or that intention to become rich is going to get blocked and not manifesting. The same with, when you sort of get an impulse from your soul self, you get an impulse that you want to be a spiritual person, but your mind is so full of stuff, either through distraction or through beliefs that you have to be in a certain way, that it has to be done in a certain way. You're full of judgments, you're full of critical inner voice and so forth. Whatever it is that you get as an impulse there, an inner guidance from your soul self, doesn't even get past your etheric, because deep down you can't even visualize it. Yeah, it's actually something strange. Okay, and that is not ever going to take a form, and not ever even reaching your astral. Okay, your astral might actually like it. Okay, but your inability to control your thought process doesn't even allow that to go there. Yeah, because maybe deep down you believe that you're only material. Yeah, that life ends when this incarnation ends, or deep down you believe that there is no God. If deep down you believe there is no God, nothing is going to pass your astral, guys. Unless you like an anti-God person, right? And that is your true conviction. Okay, then it can pass your astral. But if you believe in your heart that there is a God or a higher power, yeah, that is graceful, that is, that there's a sort of a divine plan, okay? But you're your daily thinking is so material that it doesn't even like consider the presence of spiritual processes. It ain't gonna happen, whatever it is that you want. So really what I'm saying here in short version, guys, is that um, what you manifest here in this incarnation originates in your thinking process, in your thinking process, not in your thoughts, in your thinking process. Okay, and if you want to master that better, okay, you're gonna first have to you're gonna have to observe your thinking, but you have to know you have to know how your mind works. You have to understand and feel, okay, what it is that distracts you, what it is that compels you, what it is that tempts you, what it is that deludes you, yeah, what it is that you project, okay, and let me just say it this way: there is no other way, because that is where it all originates. Whenever I say this, people get so stressed out because they're convinced that everything originates here in the emotional. And then they get this confused with, the stats that say 67% of all decisions, of all choices that we make are made based on emotions. This is a confusion, okay? They are made in an emotional state, but that emotional state is triggered by your thoughts, by your thinking process, by your beliefs, and all the attachments and binds that you have. And they then shape your emotions, and they then decide. So that's true for most of the people. That's the part in you that decides to buy the expensive skincare series, or the Chanel shoes, or the, I don't know, the Air Jordans, or whatever it is, which actually does make no sense if you think about it. And yet it's a very strong compulsion. Okay, so compulsions originate here in the astral, in the lower astral, and if you put this into context with the nature of the dark forces that we've discussed so many times. Okay, I found that actually quite helpful to train people in identifying whether something works through them, as harmonic or luciferic force. For the most part, harmonic forces, the harmonic side, or the harmonic nature of darkness, works through the etheric, works through your thinking, and the luciferic works through the astral. Okay, not entirely. So they're overlapping. They work with hand in hand with one another, because if it doesn't matter what was at first, the chicken or the egg in that regard, when it comes to the spiritual realm, because they're both dark. Okay, that's similar to what I said earlier. It doesn't matter where it originates. At the end of the day, if your ego can get compelled to doing something that you don't actually want to do, just think of addictions, or think of your plans to lose some weight, okay, and your inability to follow through on that. Okay, then you start to begin to understand the complexity of how dark forces work through you. Okay, the truth of the matter is that there is no way for you to master that without recognizing the dark forces that are at work. You have to understand the nature of these dark forces and how they work through you, how they work in your etheric, and how they work in your astral. But for now, I'd say focus on your thinking. Okay, because right there, in just simply following your own thinking process, the steps that you go through, and then how it affects your emotional, how it affects your spiritual, and how it then ultimately affects your actions. All right, that is the key. That's the key to understanding, then healing, and ultimately changing your reality. So you guys are all on the right course, because something in you has compelled you, yeah, has compelled you to set on the path of self-healing. Yeah, so congratulations. That was a great choice. Yeah, that was an impulse that came out of yourself, out of your eye. Like, I gotta do something. I wanna do something. And self is always good, right? When it comes to the I. Okay, but now you gotta work it. That's not enough to just have that intention. Now you gotta understand the mechanism of how you are getting pulled away from yourself. Why you keep getting into these shitty relationships, or why you keep having money problems, or why you keep attracting, all kinds of drama into your life. Okay, where that latches on. Remember the shit magnets that I always used to talk about? I don't use this word anymore, but it still is exactly how I see it in the spiritual world. Okay, it looks like a magnet. It works magnetic. That's why I chose to use the word polarization, because magnets are polarized, and that's exactly what happens. Yeah, if you go further, too much to that, to the right or to the left, okay, then that's what you attract. And this is your job now as active self-healers, to uncover that. And there's many different, like disciplines, and many different things that we need to train along the way, so that we are able to pinpoint, when we are starting to feel or to think things that are not representing who we truly are. And that's a lot of work. Yeah. Because just like you, Sheila, you got to pay attention. So that moment where you walk out of your house and you drive to your work, say 30 minutes or whatever, however long it takes you, something massive happens in that time. Something that is so powerful that it can erase all your intentions. Do you like that? I don't. So make it a task, in your case, Sheila, you know, to pay attention, to pay extra close attention to what happens there. Are you listening to the radio? I would stop that. Okay? Because no matter what is being said in the radio, you're tapping into the collective thought field. Okay? So just stop that. Just spend time in silence. It's a lot easier to observe your thought if you're in silence than when you have constant noise around you. Bring your body into the game. Yeah, squeeze your butt cheeks, or whatever it is that you need to do to be in your body. Okay, remember what happens when you're thinking too much into the future. Oh, I got to do this, I got to do this. Your etheric energy moves forward. It moves basically out of your body. The center of your visualization moves in front of you. You're no longer in your body fully. Okay, and much more susceptible, yeah, to all kinds of stuff, including physical unwell being, but also, just simply not being able to feel or to sense things right anymore. Yeah, for me, there's days where it's so bad that I don't even feel hunger or thirst. That's how disconnected I am to my physical body, because I'm so much in my head, okay, that I can't feel my body anymore. And all of a sudden I feel like completely dizzy, and I'm like, what the heck? Oh yeah, you didn't even eat anything today. Okay, yeah, that doesn't work well. That means you're disconnected. It means you're extremely vulnerable now to all kinds of manipulations.
Well, it's really knowing some of our vulnerabilities and listening to them every day. It's like having a child who goes, "Hi, mommy, good morning," and you ignore it, and it's just not right. You see it, like you said, things can be common in this world, but it's just not. Like, do you ignore your cat? Do you ignore your dog? I mean, why would you ignore the fact that, like, I know that you might have similar things. I have had low blood pressure my whole life, and I have to pay attention
Hmm.
to what what sensation or not sensation I'm feeling, because all of a sudden the energy can go boom down
Yep.
low, and it has partly to do with dealing with that, as well as learning where, after all these years, we're all a little bit older here. I'm noticing where, like, the fascia in my body has uh, gotten in the way or tightened around being able to expand my diaphragm properly, or your
Hmm.
chest is maybe
Hmm.
habitually turned in, so you're not breathing in the top of your
Yeah, that's a
lungs. And
physical manifestation because you haven't
yeah.
been doing it in so long. So that's exactly the point. It's a really, really good point that you're making there, Janet. Because the reality is that these all your bodies, they start to disconnect. They start to disconnect from one another. Okay, that's the reality, and this is how it happens. This is how you become like this robot. This is how you become sort of a drone. And your etheric field, okay, because this is right now the main subject of manipulation. Okay, yeah. So dark forces can't work in the physical. They need us. Okay, they need our thought field to create a form to manifest it in the physical. They can only work through us here on this or this level. Okay, they can't directly work here. And as you know, there's also a third aspect of dark forces, like the trinity of dark forces, okay, the etheric forces that work directly here on this level. Okay, this is all. This is where you see the transhumanism agenda and the whole sort of populating other planets and so forth. Disconnecting you from your origin, disconnecting you from the source of your own existence. Okay. But right now, this is the one that you guys need to pay attention to. Okay. Because that is where it happens. This is sort of the sign of the times, and this is the task that we all have as a human race, yeah, as this evolving species. Okay. Our job is to form our consciousness soul. We have to be able to penetrate our etheric and our astral and our physical with our eye. Okay, this is what we're working on. Yeah, and those are the steps. Is this natural? Is this the natural evolution of us humans? Yes, it is. It is the natural evolution that we now form this self, soul self authority. Okay, where we not only become aware of our soul, but where we start putting it into action. And this first step has to happen through eliminating all the manipulations of the mind. Because the mind is linked to the etheric field. The etheric forms it, it shapes it, it brings things into manifestation. Okay, and that's where all the manipulations that are occurring right now, where they take place. So that's basically the message that I wanted to get across, guys. And as this is basically my life's work, is to help people to bring these disciplines to train them, to experience them for themselves, and to bring all that into action, into life, okay, into an actual inner experience, not just because I say so, or somebody else says so, or whatever, or because it's an opinion or belief or faith or something. No, because you get it, okay? That's the path. Okay, and there's many different ways how we can do this. The order is not actually that important here, like as far as the disciplines of truth is concerned, because at the end of the day, we have to work them all. That's very individual, and it depends on your inner experience. And your inner experience, it depends on your will, on your ability to make your self, your spiritual identity, your soul self-awareness the priority. Not to say that you're supposed to neglect your physical. No, on the contrary, you got to understand this. This is the job. The job is to become so aware of your soul self that you can create your own reality in the physical. Why? Because you can. We have to learn this now. This is co-creatorship, guys. This is conscious co-creatorship. That's where we're at in our natural evolution as humans. And there's many, many more steps, but that is what we need to focus on right now. Okay, and if we want to get anywhere with our spiritual growth, okay, you got to start with your thinking process because that's where it all goes wrong. Your critical inner voice, your self-defeating, your self-defeating self, your negative inner self-talk, your judgments, your guilt, your shame, all these things. Stop ruminating and regurgitating your parents, your kids, your siblings, your exes. That's it, guys. You did that once. You explored the realm of psychology. Great. Now you got to move on from that. Because guess what? Everybody has psychology. Everybody has inner child issues. Everybody has insufficient parents. Everybody has negative experiences. Everybody does. This is not a discriminator. The one discriminator that you have is that you are aware that there is a part in you that stands above it. And that's the one that you need to strengthen. If you entertain victimhood, if you entertain your trauma, if you entertain all these things, guess which wolf you're feeding inside of you? I can tell you that's not your soul self. So you can tell that I'm quite adamant about this because our next workshop is about fear. And this will be the prerequisite. Okay, you got to understand that any kind of fear originates in your thoughts and in your thinking process. There's something that goes wrong in your thinking process. We all have thoughts of fear, but not everybody acts upon it. And that's what we're going to investigate in our next workshop. Why and how? How can we overcome fear thoughts? And why is it easier for some people than for others? Let's investigate that together. So remember, it all starts in your thoughts, not in your emotions, as you might think. No, it starts with your thoughts. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much for being part of this, for sharing. I love your guys' examples and your sharing. So never, ever stop sharing. Never, ever stop asking questions. You already know that this is part of executing your soul self is to inquire. Inquire about these things with yourself and, well, sharing is healing. Okay, so discussing it with others. Yeah, we are running out of time. Okay, with the pressing issues that we're having right now in this world, and at this point, it really only matters that you start becoming more aware of your thinking process. Okay, so we can talk about esoteric concepts and all the cool, fancy stuff all day long. It's not going to help you until you have a proper discipline for your mind. Okay, so again, thank you for your wonderful examples. I hope that this helped you a little bit. Maybe it shook you a little bit. You know this about me. I like um, becoming a little intense when we talk about these things because this is sort of the activation energy that we need sometimes. All right. Let your friends know. Let your the people that you converse with know that there are places like this, the Sacred Self Healing Community here on Skype. Okay, the free Connect with Your True Self Energy Healing Experience. This month we have an extra free energy session, the Mikael Mass, on September 28th. There's other tools like the the energy training course, where we actually step into this inner experience in a higher state of consciousness, where we experience our own spirit self through ourselves. Okay, and then there's courses that help us to systematically work through things like the energy course. Upon request, I put the energy course again in as this 60% discounted version, because there is such a big need for us to systematically work through all these layers of ourselves. And that is what the course does. All right, everyone. I see you very soon. I hope that you enjoyed this workshop. Please subscribe to the channel here. This is what keeps the lights on. This is what, provides sort of like this critical mass. Okay. Otherwise, if you don't push the like button, if you don't comment, these wonderful workshops, they're all just going to go under in the mass of superficial information. Okay, so that's another way how you can contribute, okay, is by actually engaging and not just consuming. All right, I love you guys. Stay conscious, and I see you soon. Bye bye.